Almost 30 years since Gary Puckett and the Union Gap had gold singles with songs like Young Girl, Woman, Woman, Over You, and This Girl Is a Woman Now. Well, we sat down with Gary during his current engagement at the Trump Taj Mahal and asked him if he had any idea that the songs he sang 30 years ago would be just as popular today.
Absolute answer to that is no. I had no idea that anything like this would take place. Even in those days, I mean, I just had the big wish that we would have recording success and sell some records and stuff, but no, I honestly didn't think that the records would sell. I thought 500,000 records would be a big deal.
Right.
You know, but...
and you were happy when they hit that 500,000 mark, but then they went beyond that.
Yeah, I remember getting the phone call in San Diego from CBS in New York saying, congratulations, you've just sold 1 million records, and that was on Woman, Woman, you know. And it sort of hit me like, you know, I wasn't overjoyed or anything. I kind of went, wow, you know.
A million? I guess you couldn't comprehend what a million was?
No, not really.
And seeing as you certainly weren't making $1 million for selling 1 million records.
No, that's true. That would have been nice.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have. There came a time in the 70s when Gary Puckett and the Union Gap were no longer. There was no more Union Gap. What did you do then? Did you think, well, that's it for the career? It was good. And...
No, I didn't think that's it for the career. I knew that it was time for me to think back a little bit. You know, look where I'd been and try to map out a plan for the future, things like that. Unfortunately for me, I made a couple of bad moves, I think, wrong decisions. One was Jack Gold at CBS, then Columbia Records, wanted me to stay. He said, we know how to make you rich and famous and just re-sign here for 6 months and let us give it another shot. And I thought to myself, well, gee, you know, they're not really doing with me what I really want to do. And so I said, Jack, thank you, but I think that I'd like to take a little bit of time off, get prepared, and I'll be back. But I wasn't back. The 70s, it was a real changing of the guard, as you know.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, musically, what did you want to do? Did you want to continue with the type of music you were doing, or maybe experiment with something different?
Well, it wasn't so much different. I guess I just wanted to have my fingers in the pie a little bit more. I wanted to write, and I wanted to produce, and things like that. And I guess that's honorable, and it's good and all that, but come to find out, I'm not really a good producer. You know, I mean, I am, but I'm not. I don't have the patience for it. You know, our projects, the last 2 records that we've made, our keyboard player has produced them, and gladly, because I'm happy that way. Yeah, I can do what I do, which is sing and play some guitar and things, and I can let him turn the knobs and think about parameters, you know, because that's just not something my brain deals with real well. My attention span is too small for those things.
Limited attention span. Well, that's okay.
Well, in that regard, yes.
Doesn't make you a bad person.
I'm not limited when it comes to sitting and writing for hours or practicing for hours or things like that, you know, but that other thing is just not my thing. But back to, you know, your original question, that I think I wanted to be involved a little bit more, and they didn't really want me to be involved. And now that I think back, they were right.
Was it like Shut Up and Sing? One of those
that
things?
Kind of thing, yeah. And I was working with some producers who were definitely my way or the highway kind of vibe, you know, and that's good and that's bad. I mean, I was kind of a kid then. I was a neophyte in the business. I was 27 years old, but really still a kid, you know.
But you still had some formidable power in that you had a stack of success behind you.
That's true. We did garner the success and respect thereby.
Interesting. All right, let's play a little flashback time. Tell me about a group called the Outcasts.
The Outcasts. Oh, that's funny. The Outcasts was a good band. Volatile, emotional, kind of wacky guys. Those were the early days for all of us. And the Outcasts was a trio: bass, drums, and guitar, organ. I played guitar, and I had a B3. And of course,
B3
the old Hammond, yeah. And we all sang. We all were 1/3 of the band, as it were. Everybody had an equal load. I wasn't the major singer in the band or anything like that. I seemed to sing more of the ballads. The other guys sang more of the hard, the R&B, those things. The other 2 fellows were really the volatile ones. They were exploding once, twice, 3 times a week. I was sort of the intermediary, you know, and saying, come on, fellas, we got a job here, and we all make pretty good money, so let's hang it together. We had a good time amidst all the confusion and the ruckus, you know, but...
this is like, what, 66, 67, somewhere in
right in there, yeah. 66 and 60... No, it was 65, 66, 64, 65 that we were the Outcasts and did the trio thing. Worked in a place called the Quad Room in San Diego. It was the nightclub to go to. There was a waiting line from about 9:30 until about 12:30 every night of the week, and we were proud of that fact. It was a fun place to be.
Now, the Outcasts eventually became the Union Gap, or was there? What? Now, how did that?
Well, the
evolution
Outcasts
take place?
became another version of the Outcasts. We went to 5 pieces, and the group stayed pretty volatile, and we tried to go on the road, but that was before any recording success and things. And you know, for a local musician to go on the road, you're just, you know, you're buying trouble. You really are. You know, you're living in cramped quarters, and you're not eating right, and you're filling yourself full of a lot of expectations that just really aren't there, you know. So we had been on the road a couple of times, and we just ended up one day, Dwight Bement, who was in the second incarnation of the Outcasts and was one of the original members of the Union Gap, he and I packed up the trailer, put it behind the car, and said, "See ya, we're out of here," you know. And of course it was time for that to happen, so that was when I decided that I would form a group, that I was really the leader. And not that I'm really a boss, I don't really relish that thought too
that would
much.
kind of be contrary to the fact that you don't like to produce, and yet the leader of a band, in a lot of respects, is the producer.
That's true. That's true.
It's like there's a dichotomy there.
Yeah, well,
You're full of them, right?
yeah, I am.
Willpower, it's now or never. Give your love to me and I'll shower your heart with tenderness.
So the Union Gap was formed then out of the Outcasts of the Outcasts.
That's right. It took about 4 to 5 months for me to locate all the guys. I wasn't even sure that Dwight Bement would stay in the band, but I pretty much felt that he would be committed to it. Found Kerry Chater and Gary Witham working in a group that the name is on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't. It was one of those names like Veritones or one of those sorts of names, and I called an agency in Los Angeles. The agency was called Howard King Agency, I believe, and Howard had been an old musician, you know, from years back. He had his trumpet mounted someplace on the wall there in his office, and he had an agent working for him by the name of Bob Zevers, and he said, "Well, I'll send somebody down to see the band." So we had worked the last couple of years prior to that for a guy down in National City, south of San Diego, at a club called Harold's Club, and I called up Galen and I said, "Can we come in and use the club in an afternoon for an agent to see us?" And he said, "Sure." So this fellow Bob Zevers came down. I remember his comment. He listened to us for about an hour, and he says, "Well, you guys aren't too good, but I'll see if I can get you a gig." And
Is that implying that the bands there at that time didn't have to be good to work?
Well, I'm not sure. He knew that we'd only been rehearsing 6 weeks and hadn't really had a job, and it's kind of on the job where you fine-tune your craft. Right. You know, when you get in front of people, that's where it starts coming together, because in rehearsal you can be lax. But I think he thought we must have had some potential of some sort. So either that or he was just a hungry agent and would have sent us anywhere to make his 10%. But so that was when it all started to come together, and we went out to a little ghost town out east of San Diego, and they had like a saloon and a graveyard and a jail, and it was kind of a little tourist attraction, and we took a lot of pictures there and put them in a portfolio along with the demo, which was really the Outcasts. It wasn't really the Union Gap. But
what was the demo?
It was just songs that we had recorded. I can't even remember the songs anymore.
They weren't any of the songs that became Union Gap hits?
No, they weren't. They were songs that were hits we all knew. One of them I think was a song called "My Prayer," a Platters tune, which I used to sing a lot because I always loved the song. And something else was on there, something we had done by the Righteous Brothers and a couple of other things. But that was the package, and so I took it to Los Angeles and went to all the record companies, and it was just, it was then like it is now. You walk in and they go, "Oh, that's nice, but it's not my bag," or "You got to talk to so-and-so," and doing the buck passing thing. But two companies showed interest. One was Coal Gems, and they had the Monkees. Of course, that was the Don Kirshner thing, and the problems came up, I guess, with the big lawsuit and all that stuff, and they just shut it down. So fortunately, I chose to go with Columbia Records because I could have chosen to go with Coal Gem, seeing that the Monkees had such huge success. You know,
Right.
But I made the right choice, and from there, you know, I had found Jerry Fuller, and he came down to hear the band and enjoyed. He says, "Yeah, let's go make a record." You know, I mean, he was looking for my voice, and I found him in his office, and so he's given credit for discovering me.
And you got that big voice. You're not a big guy, but you've got that big voice.
I do think.
Where'd that come from?
The good Lord above, he planted it right there. He first put it into the persons of my mom and dad, and they were both musicians, and that's how they met in their high school days. They both were good singers. My father's hard of hearing now, so he still sings well. He just can't sing with people because
Right.
he can't hear them. But my mom is 76 years old, and she still teaches, plays. She's very, very active in the music world.
So you're going into the business was pretty much preordained by genetics.
Yeah, by genetics and God himself, you know, because my parents always wanted me to be something important, you know. They wanted me to have an education and be a doctor or a lawyer or something. My father worked hard all his life and supported 5 kids, and it was rough for him, you know, because he had to fight to get to the top. He didn't have a real formal education because he'd gone off to fight World War II, and, you know, so he was sort of, I think he feels cheated of that formal education, but they wanted me to do something significant, but they were behind me with the music.
And you did. So you weren't a doctor or a lawyer, but you did do something significant. Hey, Gary, thanks so much.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate it. Continued success.
Thank you.
And
Likewise.
we'll be listening for all those good songs on the radio.
Your heart with tenderness.